It's Christmas time, and when examining Golden Age Hollywood Christmas movies, it makes sense to start with one of the best, one that changed how we see the holiday. The film is Holiday Inn, and while it is a Christmas film, it works for multiple holidays. Thanksgiving, the 4th of July, Valentine's Day, though I don't think anyone is really looking for a Washington's birthday film. It may work best as a New Year's film, partly due to less competition, but also multiple songs and scenes, including the final one, are about New Year's. But Holiday Inn is where the song White Christmas came from, so it has to be looked at as a Christmas film. The idea came from composer Irving Berlin after writing Easter Parade in 1933. Why not a whole show made up of holiday songs? With 15 holidays, 15 times a year, every year, people would buy music, and he'd get paid. Well, not quite 15 times, as a few of the holidays get multiple songs, and others are skipped, but it was good financial planning. No one now might be singing his Thanksgiving tune, but with the royalties from White Christmas, the rest hardly matters. When he couldn't get a Broadway show together, he suggested his holiday songs idea to film director Mark Sandrich, and the road to Holiday Inn was set. The story just needed to be a frame to hang those musical numbers, and a little comedy and romance. That story starts with the act of singer Jim Hardy, dancer Ted Hanover, and object of both of their affections, Lila Dixon, about to break up. Jim wants to be a farmer and marry Lila, but she throws him over for Ted and making people happy with their feet. Jim's lonely attempt at being a farmer doesn't work out, so he decides to turn his farm into an inn, though I'd call it a nightclub or dinner theater. Open holidays only, where he performs along with Linda Mason, a flower clerk wanting to make it big in showbiz. Things look good until a drunken Ted shows up on New Year's Eve, having gotten a Dear John telegram from Lila. Naturally, both men want Linda, and there will be a lot of singing and dancing before one of them wins. Paramount went for star power in casting. Bing Crosby, the most popular singer of the time, and Fred Astaire, the best film dancer of all time. And with that power, they stopped. Ginger Rogers and Rita Hayworth were suggested as the female leads, and would have elevated an already classic film into the stratosphere. But the studio paid big money for Crosby and Astaire, so it didn't see a need to invest in expensive female talent. So the cast was filled out with non-stars who never would be. Marjorie Reynolds, as Linda, is attractive, which she needs to be for the story, but is not in the top 2/3 of Astaire's dancing partners, and her singing was dubbed. Virginia Dale, as Lila, barely sings, and she too fades when next to Astaire. So it's all about two men singing and dancing, but the few non-musical moments work almost as well. The plot is frothy silliness set in a non-existent world where people from New York City drive to the back roads of Connecticut to see a show put on by nobodies. And by the time it was released, gas rationing would have shut down any such excursions for the one or two maniacs who would have tried it. The romances are marvelously shallow, which is one of the film's greatest pleasures. The two women will get engaged to anyone who asks, and as quickly dump their foolish fiancés. Ted and Jim will backstab each other for a girl, fall in love at the drop of a hat, and lie, cheat, and steal to win. There's no cheap sentiment here. Any real emotion is carried by the songs. The dialogue is left free for sharp jabs and wit. And what about the songs? The standout, of course, is White Christmas, one of the best-selling songs of all time. It's performed twice here. Once by Crosby with Martha Mears, as Reynolds lip syncs, and once by Mears, again with Reynolds faking it, and some support from Crosby, and both times it's first rate. The song was written for the film and won the Oscar as Best Original Song, but Crosby sang it first publicly in December of 1941, and then recorded it as a single in May. The film was released in August. Before White Christmas, Christmas songs tended to be more or less religious, and the nostalgia for a simpler hearth and home time wasn't part of the equation. This song changed that, and World War II audiences, missing their loved ones, were primed to suck in all that nostalgia. And if there's a better version of the song than Crosby's, I haven't heard it. There's plenty of other winning numbers. I've Got Plenty to Be Thankful For and Easter Parade are pleasant songs that fit Crosby's voice perfectly. Oddly, the latter is the one full song that breaks the diegetic nature of the musical. When someone bursts into song in Holiday Inn, it's happening, mostly, as part of a stage performance. But Jim just starts singing Easter Parade as he and Linda ride about in a carriage. If it's supposed to be diegetic, I have questions about the orchestra. Happy Holiday and Let's Start the New Year Right are about as good as New Year's songs get. I'll Capture Your Heart is a lot of fun, while You're Easy to Dance With gives Astaire a chance to recapture his white tie RKO days. Then there's Let's Say It With Firecrackers, where Astaire taps to small explosions, which is generally considered one of the great film dances. Song's not bad either. With so many musical numbers, there were bound to be a few misfires. The Valentine song gives us the lyric, Be careful, it's my heart. It's not my watch you're holding. It's my heart. Not one of Berlin's finest. And Paramount thought that was going to be the hit, not White Christmas. But a thankfully long section without lyrics, and the Astaire Reynolds dance saves it from being too painful. I Can't Tell a Lie is lyrically almost as bad. I could say that you're homely, just as homely as pie, but this is Washington's birthday, and I've got to say you're beautiful, 'cause I can't tell a lie. But it's performed as a comedy dance with some insanely athletic moves, so it squeaks by. Hey, could anyone write a good Washington's birthday song? Then there's Abraham, for Lincoln's Birthday, which has a whole different kind of problem, as it's performed in blackface, and there isn't the minimizing factor that existed in the blackface a few years earlier in Astaire's Swing Time. There it was a tribute to Bill Bojangles Robinson, and the dark makeup was relatively subtle. Here, Crosby, and worse, Reynolds, are in full minstrel getup, and it's pretty ghastly. And even in 1942, it was dated. The scene has often been cut for TV and cable broadcasts, leaving an awkward hole in the film. In-world, the reasoning is that Jim is trying to hide Linda from Ted with makeup, and minstrel blackface was the best he could come up with. Minstrel blackface was also used to hide a character's identity in Hitchcock's Young and Innocent in 1937, and it doesn't work there either. Also distracting, though more understandable, is the sudden appearance of patriotic stock footage. The Pearl Harbor attack took place during filming, so some wartime propaganda was suddenly added to the July 4th segment. But was the shot of General MacArthur really necessary? Sandrich was behind several of the greatest musicals of all time, including multiple of the Astaire Rogers classics, but his greatest skill wasn't in what he did, but what he didn't do. Sandrich's talent was in keeping out of the way, which works great when your film is filled with musical numbers, which were mostly under the control of a powerful singer and a very particular dancer. He'd point his camera where it needed to be and let the music and choreography do the heavy lifting. He wasn't one for fancy camera tricks that might distract from what he was selling, which brings up the colorized version. I'm a silver screen fan, so always prefer classic films in their original black and white. But if you have a viewer in your family who must have color, this is a case where going with the altered version doesn't do much harm. Sandrich didn't do anything exciting with shadows, or make any statement with his use of black and white. So if you want your Christmas filled with greens and reds, go for it. Holiday Inn is an imperfect gem, but it is a gem. It's great music and great dance surrounded with fluff, and has been part of my Christmas tradition for nearly 50 years.